Hi, and welcome back to The Vision Within. Today is March the 18th, 2018, and we so appreciate you being here. Please remember to subscribe and follow us on our YouTube channel, The Vision Within. So today we are your hosts. I'm Lori.
Loretta.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Katrina.
And we're going to be talking to you a little bit about manifesting abundance and joy. Our last segment we were talking about happiness, and so we thought this would be a nice little segue to go into it. So who would like to start us off?
Why don't you go ahead, Lisa?
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see. Well, I talked about last segment my advice to my daughter the other day.
Yes.
And I just sort of rattled off, abundance is fun when we enjoy what we currently have.
Right.
So, I mean, we can be really abundant. I mean, be perceived by others as being one of the wealthiest people in the world. But if we're not having fun with it, are we truly abundant?
That reminds me of a documentary called Happy. Has
Yes,
anyone
I've
seen
seen that.
And it is, this country measures happiness like we measure GNP, but it's the happiness quotient.
Okay.
And what I think is so cool is that it is one of the poorest areas ever. And they are incredibly happy because they have community. And so they pool their resources and they all cook together and, they do that. And so I do think it kind of circles back to always what's our perception.
And do they feel abundant,
Oh,
even though
they
we may
do.
not perceive them as having
Yes,
abundance?
they feel very, very abundant. They're very present in the moment. They have all their children, everything around them. Now, while that's far from where we have landed ourselves, kind of as a nation, I think, though, that, and just for me, as I have worked through my perception of being very abundant or being completely depleted, and whatever that looks like with my resources or, energy, money, whatever, when I stop waiting for something to come in order for me to feel abundant, but I just create abundance by looking at, oh my gosh, I have all of these things around me that I can do, which reminds me, Kat is always telling me, first when you're having a discussion with someone, say what you can do and what you can't,
That.
And that has been huge and instrumental for me, especially in work-related situations. So
I think what we focus on is what we get. If we focus on lack,
Right.
we get more lack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We focus on abundance. And, for me, there's a couple different ways for that. So, well, actually, about three primary ways that I view abundance. First of all, I like to play like little games, like with the universe, right? So when I'm driving to work and I want like a spot close to the building, especially if the weather's really crappy,
Right.
I don't want to have to, like park so far away, So as soon as I leave my house, I just set it with the intention that I know that there'll be a parking space waiting for me, right? And I just kind of repeat that. Just I know it like I know it like I know it. I'm gonna have a parking space, and I would say like probably about 90% it comes true. And whenever I pull in, I always thank God like 3 times. Thank you, thank you, thank you, when I get it. So those are little ways I play games with that. Another way is that, I kind of visualize what I want. So what I know, what I want is I want, if I wanted to increase my social network, I just have this, you carry around this feeling of, of abundance from a friendship perspective. So those are ways to do it. And secondly, or thirdly, I just don't worry. I don't worry about money. I don't worry about, what's going to happen, because I just know that the universe is already lining it up for me, right?
Right.
So those are kind of the ways that I manifest abundance for myself.
That's perfect.
Nice.
I love that. I love the parking space experiment. It really does. I think what we're feeling is reflected in our hologram almost instantaneously anymore.
Sure.
Absolutely. A life experience.
Yeah.
And I call that Doris Day parking, where, in the old movies, when Doris Day would be in the convertible and she'd have a little scarf on her head and she'd always pull into wherever she was going, she'd get the first spot.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes too. I'm like, okay, let's see if I can get Doris Day parking.
Doris Day parking.
Mark calls it show parking. We always get show parking.
That's awesome. And so here she comes again.
Uh-oh, Loki.
Hi, sweet baby. It's okay. It's okay. There's something up here. She wants to be here.
Yes,
It's okay.
yes. She's our video cat.
She's our video kitty.
She hasn't disturbed us the last few segments, so I guess she's back on a track
Yeah, she is.
now.
She's a happy kitty.
Okay,
There
she's
we
going to
go.
go climb on everybody's
She's
lap.
making the rounds.
There you go.
She's our little mascot.
She is our little mascot.
Do you think commercials? Oh, go ahead and do your thought.
Well, I had this, a good friend of ours gets a lot of information through meditation and information, all kinds of things through meditation. And she texted me yesterday and was asking me some questions because she has Lyme's disease, and she was getting that there was someone who was helping her, and they told her they were using certain stones on her. They told her what they were. She'd never heard of them before. They told her about some certain plants to either ingest or put on her body. And she kind of came out of it before she could hear where she's supposed to put them and some of those things. So she reached out to me and said, how do I use these things? What do I do? And she said something interesting happened as well where I've been told to make an offering.
An offering.
Go to the river and make an offering. And I said, okay, what kind of offering? And she said, rose petals and, I don't remember, she said something else. Dates.
Okay.
Dates. And so roses and dates. And I said, well, it's really interesting. I said, what are some of the things that you have said that you wanted to bring into your life this year? And she said, I want love in my life because she is currently at the end stages of a divorce. And she said, so I want to bring more love into my life. And I really want to enjoy my life. I really want the sweetness in my life. And I said, well, roses are heart. Are a heart flower.
Yeah.
And dates always represent the sweetness of life, but it's connected with the earth very much. And I said, it's interesting that, and I never understood it until that moment, what offerings meant. And she said she was told to make the offering with gratitude.
Yeah.
So offerings in my mind, or what they represented, and she and I talked through this, and I never understood it until that moment, because I thought, well, gosh, how can you... What's the purpose of offerings if you're being grateful for something you don't already have? And it always felt like this sitting in lack and sitting in fear of these gods who deliver this, the crops or the abundance to you versus manifesting it yourself. But when she was told in her meditation to go with gratitude, to make these offerings, I thought, wow. What landed for me was that she's in gratitude in this moment for what's to come.
Yes, okay.
And so what I loved about that, especially with the roses and with the dates, was that she's bringing in the love and the sweetness of life while she's sitting in gratitude now.
Right.
And there's something about that, being immersed in that feeling and that emotion of joy and gratitude and being present for it now, and making your offering with being in the energy of those emotions, that I feel like is a major key to manifesting abundance in our lives.
Yeah, because abundance is right now, and if we just allow and trust that whatever happens in the next moment will be fine, and in accordance with our frequency, then everything's going to be great.
Yes.
Right.
And she said, of course we don't see her own stuff, and she is incredibly bright and intelligent. And I thought, oh, it's interesting that she didn't see this. But she said, I'm in tears because I didn't think of it that way. It just landed for me as very strange that I would be asked to make an offering and be in gratitude when I did so. And I thought, her guides are really smart because they understand. I really feel like the law of attraction gets sort of, for lack of a better term, bastardized. Because and I hate to use the negative connotation, but it's overused and it really gets diluted. Maybe diluted is a better word.
Yeah, it really
gets diluted because that's, to me, an example of how law of attraction lands for me. As you bring to you what you sit in the frequency of, and that can be abundance, it can be joy, it can be love, it can be anything. And so I just sort of thought of that, and it resonated with me when she was when we were trading texts yesterday. So I just share that because I think that might be part of the equation. Right?
Well, I think that the law of attraction can get distorted in our minds if we're thinking of it in terms of there's not enough abundance to go around.
Right.
And so then that brings in competitiveness, worrying about the future. I better go out there aggressively and compete to get what I need and what I want, and focus on what I want because there's only so much to go around. When we realize that the law of attraction is simply sitting in a certain frequency, and we'll start to see what is in our reality that reflects that frequency, rather than going out and searching or hoping. And commercials on TV programming is all about that, right? It's all about, I got to get that last iPhone, or I got to get those new shoes that Adidas is talking about. And since I've not been watching TV for the last 6, 7, 8 years, I can't even count now, I don't see those commercials.
Right.
And it helps me become more grateful for what I currently have rather than wanting something that I can't afford.
I think they're very smart how they go about it because they do one of two things. They either show they've gotten smart because they've evolved, I think, along with consciousness. So now instead of showing, this fear, instead of instilling fear, they show you what you can have if you take their medicine, use their product, buy whatever it is that they're selling, that you can have this image that they're creating of what happy looks like.
Right.
And you know what? The older I get, the more I realize that everybody's version of happy looks different.
Right.
And you know what? I don't really think that's mine. That's just a snapshot. And so I don't know. I think that there are more possibilities than just what I'm being shown. And I'm unwilling to be limited in that way anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that commercials are counterintuitive to being grateful for what we currently have?
Completely. And I just note that when my son was here recently, he showed Mark and I an app that we could do that shows estate sales. And you could, right now, on the fly, where's there an estate sale? And I started really thinking about that, and that's such a beautiful bridge because you pick up all of the wonderful energy that people have imbued into that furniture or whatever, and you can bring that into your home for pennies.
Oh, I know.
On the dollar of what it would cost to get something new that's, maybe using up more trees. And we have an abundance of furniture out there.
Right.
Why not share it? And it was interesting, too, that yesterday I met a Swedish gentleman, last night, as a matter of fact, and I was in his home, and he had this beautiful clock. There was a Swedish grandfather clock with the rounded top, and my dad used to always collect clocks from all over the world, and we had a neighbor who synchronistically could tinker with clocks and keep them all running. And so in our house, every quarter hour we would have all this music going on from all of these chimes. And it was the anniversary of my dad's death yesterday, 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And here's this clock. And then he gets a phone call, and the man's name is Howard. My dad's name was Howard. So I said, thanks, Dad.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
But he was talking about how his furniture, this had been his mother's father's, and that had been the grandfather's, and this came from her family. And so, so that's a huge thing of abundance, too. We have everything right here.
Everything we
already.
need. Right.
Already.
Agreed.
So, right.
That's a good idea. That's a really good thought process. And I do love a good estate sale, honey.
I know.
Ooh, they
Do
can
you
be fun.
have any more thoughts about the law of attraction? And
I think that, just basically what we were focusing on is that, what we think about and the energy that we put out is what's coming back to us.
Yes.
And that's even with like kindness and love and
Right.
and I think that, you know, if we focus on the positive things and just the knowing that we'll be taken care of,
Right.
I think that you know, and that also goes with how we view ourselves and talk about ourselves. I mean, you know, the universe hears everything that we say.
Sure. And
And
don't say.
right,
our
and it
thoughts,
replays
right?
it back to us, right?
Right.
So, you know, if we want to have abundance of happiness even, then we have to project a happy attitude, a grateful attitude, joyful attitude. I mean, just like this cat, right?
Right.
She's in the moment.
She's
and
so
she has to be a
happy.
pure,
I think
happy,
animals
abundant-
are a great example of being in the
Yes.
moment. They're completely present. They're completely in the moment.
Right.
They're grateful for everything. I could feed my dog the same thing every day, and she gets excited and jumps around like a little crazy
Yeah.
dog, like a circus
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
Every time I mix up her food, she just, I mean, that's really pretty cool.
I thought of one real quick thing too I want to
Yeah.
put in here about the law of attraction. My view has really changed, and I remember watching a video of Abraham.
Okay.
Channeling
Abraham
from
Hicks.
Abraham Hicks,
Yes.
right. So I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
listening to that and saying, you know, we can easily be fooled by that because we are sitting in a place of lack trying to attract things
Yes.
to us.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, definitely they're picking up on that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
And
we just perpetuate the lack.
You keep perpetuating the lack.
Okay.
And so now I view the law of attraction being a tool and knowledge, which is power.
Right.
And I view it differently. So if I have attracted something into my life, I'm like, oh, isn't that curious? You know, my thoughts must have been going here and
Right.
there. And then I take a few moments to be really grateful again and present. And it's usually because I'm moving too fast and I was in the future and where I was powerless.
Oh, yeah.
And so now I view the law of attraction as more fun information,
Yes.
not as a tool I need to bring things to myself.
Yeah, and confirmation that if you're
Right.
thinking something or feeling something and thinking something, it's going to happen.
Right.
Like at the parking space.
Right.
If you'd been, it's going to be just like yesterday. There are no spaces up here. I got here late.
Then I would not find anything.
You wouldn't have found
Right.
Yeah.
Nope.
See, and I
90%
never even have to think about that now because
Yeah.
Mark has said it so often. We always get show parking,
Yeah.
so I know I'll
It's
get
just
show
become-
parking.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
so
Well,
I
I
never
like the
think
Doris
about
Day
it.
parking.
I like that too.
You know, at some point I'm going to have a convertible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm going to have perfect hair when I arrive wherever I go in the
Yeah.
first parking spot because I
Yeah.
like that. I'm going to manifest that for myself too.
Yeah, and she sang, Que sera, sera.
That's right.
Whatever will be, will be.
That's
Yep.
right.
The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera.
Yep.
That's my favorite song. I used to sing
Awesome.
that when she would dance down the
Oh
spiral
my gosh, I
staircase.
loved her. We're showing our age,
Yeah.
some of us, but
It's all
You know what though? That's part of the reason why I don't watch TV anymore because
Yeah.
I'm looking. Well, I take it back. There are a few things I watch.
Right.
Will and Grace.
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Like pretty much that's about the only thing I watch. And I know it is preposterous, but it makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a good sort of way for me to let go of my day and just watch something and
It's clean.
and
Right, right.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Well-
good fun. Good, clean
Well,
fun.
it's not. I don't. I mean, you know, there's not violence. There's
No.
not.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's to me. That's
Yeah, and if
Yes.
the neuroscientists
Yeah.
were probing in your brain, they would say, oh, she's met the mathematical equation for happiness.
Well, and you
Oh, you're
guys know
laughing.
me well enough to know that humor has to be a part of every day of my
Yes.
life.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
It's how I get
Yeah.
through stress. It's how I propel myself forward. And I've consciously made that shift and understood that about myself probably in the last 10 years because, you know, I can sit and stress about things and, you know, I just would rather find the humor in it.
Right. Right.
And sit in a place of joy and laugh about it because sometimes things happen in our lives
Right.
and they are patterns
Right.
of completely preposterous or irrelevant things like not finding a parking spot 10 days in a row or you know, those kinds of
Yeah, yeah.
things.
Bless you.
sorry.
Oh, we got
It's
the
kitty
cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those kinds of things will happen and I laughingly say, well, you can't write that kind of stuff.
That's
Right.
right.
And, which is perpetuating it, but it's also adding fun to it. And,
Right.
and I laugh about it and think, okay, yeah, I do see the humor in it, but maybe that's an indication of where I could shift my thought process. I could
Right.
shift my outlook or my thoughts, because my thoughts have energy. And whether it's humorous or not, I mean, I can either be in pain about it or I can be in humor about it, and I choose to be in humor.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a stab at wrapping up.
I love that.
But I'd love your input. Chime in. Let's see. We talked about, our title, I think, was something similar to how to manifest abundance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that got us segued into the law of attraction. We also talked about how commercials are counterintuitive to that, and perpetuating lack because we're hoping and desiring something we may never be able to get. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the Doris Day and parking space and the I don't remember the parking
show parking.
Show parking and how you're able to confirm that what you're thinking and feeling is manifesting in your reality instantaneously through an open parking space. How fun, and we can do that in our daily lives on a lot of things. That's what synchronicity is, just bouncing back to us what we were thinking and feeling. I think the feeling is key because the frequency.
Right.
And share the love, you're the conduit for love right now. So
I need to sit closer to you next segment.
I was like, wow.
You notice we play musical chairs, you'll know why.
And we talked about, dates and roses, if we use those in our meditation, how that can increase our frequency and attract abundance in our life.
And maybe a different perspective on offerings.
Offerings. And just being happy with what we currently have, feeling abundance right now.
Right.
And allowing whatever might show up. And then having gratefulness for that.
Sure.
So what did I miss, ladies?
That's it. You got it all.
Okay. Well, I'm Lisa. Thank you for being here.
Loretta.
I'm Lori.
And I'm Katrina.
And don't forget to follow us on the YouTube channel, The Vision Within.
Yeah.
Please subscribe and share any topics that you might want to hear us chat about.
I'm going to propose something. I'd like to know how you guys out there, how you manifest abundance in your lives, and how you, what you think happiness is, how it shows up in your life. Because I think we've just built a bridge between our last segment, which was what is happiness and how we manifest abundance. I'd love to know how you manifest abundance in your life and what you're happy for.
We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.